And of course, that's real obvious because we did not have the word electronically in the original language. And of course, we're in a technological age, and we want to make sure that that was in there. Number 7 is a lot of new language. It says, if there is a condition that prevents the physical meeting of the convocation or quadrennial session from occurring, alternate meeting methods shall be made available to include use of virtual meeting services, video conferencing, telephone, and electronic messaging. The procedures for using these methods must be developed in sufficient time for all members to get the necessary access. The mid-year conference could also be considered as an alternative meeting. The general president may appoint a committee to develop the appropriate methodology in an effort to ensure that no member will be disenfranchised. And there again, COVID created a lot of different things so that we make sure that folks are not being disenfranchised or we could not vote, etc. So this, and again, you hear the expansion upon our mid-year conference as another one of our meetings that would be considered where we could do actually even more serious type, decisions, okay? All right. Any questions about that? Yes, Sister Bagley.
I don't have a paper on me, but you said something about it being notified at a particular time.
Yes.
Would it not be beneficial to put a timeline in there? 30 days or?
Might be. We can look at that. I'll just note that I think one of the things that would probably happen in a meeting of that magnitude would be, again, pretty kind of like where we are with the electronic voting now. In that, I have said from the outset, no challenges for me on the procedure. In fact, we had mock votes. We hit the button, no problem. I tried to vote the second time. Kicked me back, told me, you have already voted, Mr. Hargrave. Great. I said, wonderful, because I was trying the system out. I am convinced with the procedure. Now, of course, you know, in the world in which we live in, there's all kinds of things that go on, hacking and all kind of stuff, and so we always have to have that kind of concern as it relates to that. But I'm good on the method. It's the rollout where I'm most concerned now, and that goes to your point in terms of time. But in the mid-year conference, we're going to be able to make that final decision. Have we had enough time for the rollout, and do we feel that there's been sufficient time for our people not to be disenfranchised? And that's what we will hold to. So I said that to say this, even without a 30-day in there, we're going to be able to voice that if that's where we feel like we are. In this meeting, especially in our business meeting, we will start launching as if we're going to do electronic voting. Because, again, rollout means we're going to have accurate email addresses and no landline numbers. We're going to have cell phones. And yes, you will get, you know, your unique code. Nobody will have your code. You'll only be able to use that once and all. There have been some concerns about access to the internet and whether people would need to be bused to a library or something where in the rural areas where it's stronger. We don't want anybody disenfranchised. And see, sometime in the midst of our luxuries and we just hitting buttons everywhere, there are folks in the rural areas who cannot have, they don't have fiber optic, you know, and so we've got to consider them. And interesting enough, sometimes some of those most remote rural areas is in North Carolina, and we have to so keep that. And that's what continues to come up in terms of of disenfranchisement and how that can happen, okay? Any other questions or comments there? Okay. Let me, the next item, and let's see, I'm sorry. I think those are duplicates. It is, isn't it? Okay, all right. I was making sure I wasn't missing anything. It's actually these two. Those are the amendments to the Constitution, actually. And what happens is, when you have constitutional changes, our manual clearly states that there must be a two-thirds of our districts have to agree to them.